Hello everyone, Intuitive Edge here. So today I want to talk about socialism. I want to explain some of why I believe it is a violation of natural law and what that means. So I want to explain my point of view. When I talk about natural law, I'm talking about the inherent forces of nature that govern life, that govern our existence, that unseen force that keeps the world moving and that allows human beings and life to flourish on this planet. There's an intelligence behind it, whether you call it God or whether you call it just nature, but it has its own intelligence and it operates within its own framework of natural law. So when I talk about natural law, that's what I'm talking about, is distilling things down to their basic energy. We as human beings tend to make things very complicated. We complicate everything. And in reality, natural law is very simple. And understanding it, it's a very simple concept to understand. It's just we have to get out of our complicated way of thinking in order to grasp it. I want to talk about distilling down to the bare basics, and I wrote some notes here about the energy of what I mean by natural law into its lowest common denominator that everyone can understand, a concept. People agree that murder is wrong, okay? That is taking a life. That is, in and of itself, that is a wrong act, okay? And I'm not talking about, like, you know, you can get into all kinds of arguments, like complicating things in terms of, you know, when is murder not murder and whatever. That's humans complicating it. But for instance, I want to talk about socialism in this. I'll try to make this quick. But I want to talk about socialism and how I believe it does violate natural law and why that's important. Take, for instance, the saying, we want the rich to pay their fair share. Now, on the outset, people say, well, what's wrong with that? They're rich, they can afford it, they can afford to give a little more to help other people less fortunate. What's wrong with that? Okay. It sounds nice, sure. Okay. But what does it really mean? What does it mean when you say the rich need to pay their fair share? What that means, let's boil it down, is that we are advocating forcibly taking someone's wealth against their will and giving it to someone else. Now, some people would still say, well, what's wrong with that? They can afford it. Okay. With natural law, nature doesn't discriminate when, for instance, I'll diverge here for just a moment. Nature doesn't discriminate with the law of gravity, for instance. If you jump off a cliff and you fall to your death, you know, is that gravity's fault? Or is that just nature doing what nature does? It doesn't discriminate whether you are rich, whether you're poor. It just is, because that's what nature does. So when you say taking someone's wealth against their will and giving it to others, there's a big problem with that. Even if it sounds nice, even if it sounds all, you know, we couch it in nice language, oh, they should, you know, give of their wealth to the less fortunate. There's a problem with it. And how does it violate natural law? Let's boil it down so we can understand this some more. It's important not to confuse our end goal of wanting to help the poor or the less fortunate. That is human beings complicating a very basic concept of forcibly taking someone's wealth against their will. If I was to come up to you and hold you at knife point and take your wallet, that would be taking something against your will. That, if we boil that down, it's called robbery. It's called burglary. Okay, robbery, burglary. What is robbery? Let's boil that down again. What is robbery? Robbery is theft. When you say, and no matter how nice words you put it, no matter how you dress it up and make it sound good, when you advocate to take someone's wealth against their will, you're advocating theft. That is why socialism is wrong. It is advocating theft. Now, dress it up all you want, it's still theft. Justify it all you want, it's still theft. Justify it by saying, well, they can afford it. That's your opinion, but it's still theft. And the universe operates on what we present, what we give. The universe doesn't have all these convoluted, justifications. Well, if a toddler falls off a cliff, the law of gravity is just going to be the law of gravity. It's not going to say, oh, that poor innocent child, didn't deserve to die. It's still gravity. It's still theft. We're still dealing with natural law. We're still dealing with the laws of nature. When you take someone for something forcibly, you're advocating theft. And that is why it's damaging. It's damaging to take someone's anything that belongs to them, that they've worked for, against their will. It's a damaging ideology, and it's inherently unfair. And to try to equalize and make things fair by using an unfair method doesn't make sense. That also goes against natural law, because nature doesn't work against itself. Nature is nature. Nature just is. It just uses what it has, and it gives unconditionally. We cannot advocate theft and taking from others and expect to have a good result. This is why we see society try socialism for a time, and then it eventually breaks down. Things that are built on principles that violate the natural principles of how the world works and operates eventually will break down, because it's not built on a foundation that can support it. It's not built on truth. It's not built on things that are right and things that are good. It's built on a falsehood. And things that are built on falsehoods won't be able to last. And so you can try socialism all you want, but eventually it will implode on itself because the foundation was wrong to begin with. Forced equalization doesn't make anybody equal. It makes everyone miserable. And that is what we see toward the end of a socialist society, when it's in its death throes and it's dying and people are starving and nobody wants to help. Nobody wants to contribute anymore, because what's the point? It takes away human creativity. It takes away the spark of the divine. In them, that spark that's lit tends to suffocate and snuff out when it's not being nurtured and allowed to grow into a beautiful thing. So I know this is probably, I'm trying to distill this down a little bit. I know it's probably sounds strange to some that, people are all in this idea that socialism is wonderful because, you know, we have all these resources and nobody should be starving. Well, there are ways to help in society, but perhaps the lesson is each person gets to grow and learn that within themselves. It's not that there shouldn't be charity. Absolutely should be charity. Absolutely people should help their fellow man and help their neighbors, be more kind to others. But how much more will people be willing to be kind if they're not being forcefully taken from, and if they're not being forcefully robbed? So that's my thoughts. I don't know if I distilled that down very well, but hope you get what I mean by this. I'm going to try to do some more of these and explain a little more where I'm coming from. But natural law is the governing principle. Think of it like your subconscious. There's been a lot of studies on that, Carl Jung and others, about the subconscious and about, you know, what you put in. Like people that do affirmations, you know, when you try to have positive thoughts, which is good. Affirmations are great. But when you're putting something in your subconscious and you're saying, and you do your affirmation, you know, that I'm not going to gain weight. Well, the subconscious doesn't always hear the word like don't and not. They're just hearing gaining weight. So it's all that talk, how you talk to yourself and how you want to be depends on your self-talk to your subconscious. Rather than, you know, instead of saying it in a negative way, affirm that, you know, I am my right and perfect weight. I am eating healthy and not focusing on what you don't want. And I think socialism is focusing on what you see that you don't like, which is also a way to perpetuate what you don't want to see. And no matter what, there will always be rich people and there will always be poor people. And I think a great teacher once said that the poor shall always be with you. So it's not a matter of getting rid of all of the standards and keep everybody equal. It's a matter of helping lift them up. And we don't do that by dragging other people down and stealing from them. All right, that's all for this segment. Hope you enjoyed it. I will make more videos. Hope you're doing well. This is Intuitive Edge. Bye now.